right. Well, welcome, ladies. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are here as part of our LeadHERS webinar series. And LeadHERS is a virtual series that was born out of a desire to connect professional women in the community to enhance their leadership, but also other aspects of personal and professional lives. So speakers cover a range of topics from health and wellness to professional development. And we are here today with Nicky Espinosa, where she will cover finding the courage to bet on yourself. So, Lauren, would you please? So here's our agenda. We'll do, Lauren will cover a quick overview of our Women United. We'll hand the floor over to Nicky, where she'll present some really inspiring messages with us. And then we'll wrap up by sharing some upcoming events. So just a quick introduction of our LeadHERS leaders, so to speak. I'm Sandy Perillo-Simmons, Global Head of Data Governance with AIG. I also have Melissa O'Hara here with me. She is president of the O'Hara Solutions Group, and Lauren Pereira, who is our Women United manager for the United Way of Central and Northeastern Connecticut. So we're happy to be here with all of you today and to host Nicky. And with that, I will turn over to Lauren, where she's going to share a little bit more about our Women United program.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. It's so nice to see you all. So as many of you know, Women United is a global effort of over 70,000 dedicated folks creating a world of opportunity. So we are in 165 communities across 6 countries. As part of on the global level, Women United has raised $2 billion since 2002, focusing on areas such as education, financial stability, and women's health. Our local Women United serves the greater Hartford region and focuses on raising funds for United Way supported family financial stability programs. To date, our Women United has raised more than $2.2 million since 2012. We raised those funds through our signature fundraisers, Power of the Purse and Red, White, and Chocolate. You'll hear a little bit about upcoming events at the end of the program, but Power of the Purse is coming up in just under a month on June 8th. All right, so as I said, our local Women United focuses on 4 issues that matter most to our members. So we focus mostly on women's empowerment, financial capability, asset building opportunities, and family sustaining employment. 2 key objectives for our local Women United are adults obtain and retain jobs that offer family sustaining wages and career advancement. Individuals and families increase their financial capability to achieve short and long-term goals. So we wanted to just take a moment to share the impact that we've made in the last year. Every year we do get, data for how our funding has impacted folks in the community. And so we just like to share that with members so that you all are informed and know a little bit more about what it really is to be a member of Women United. There we go. So last year, more than 15,000 individuals participated in financial stability programming, including employment and job training opportunities, access to benefits, financial coaching and education, and free tax preparation services. Last year, nearly 1,300 people enrolled in job training programs, improving their education and employment potential. 76% obtained industry-specific credentials or certifications, and 86% increased wages. So these are real, numbers for our community that we have been working to support. And these training programs directly correlate with our objective for participants to obtain and retain work that offers family sustaining wages. So last year, 1,500 individuals participated in financial coaching services to build income and wealth, to reduce debt and to improve credit. So 46% made regular contributions to savings and 52% reduced household debt. More than 10,000 folks filed their 2021 tax returns at no cost through our VITA program, which is volunteer income tax assistance, resulting in 27.5 million in federal refunds and credits, including $6 million in earned income tax credits. So many of you, know some of the core work that we do, but these are just some of the statistics that to really show what it means to be a Women United member and how we really are changing the lives of folks in our community that are living paycheck to paycheck. So these Women United funded program outcomes directly correlate with our objective for participants to increase their financial capability to achieve short and long-term work and financial goals. We greatly appreciate the difference that our members make in the lives of many. You can become a member today if you aren't already. Our membership starts at $250, and you could reach out to me for more information. I will turn it back over to Sandy to introduce our guest speaker.
Awesome. Thanks, Lauren. Those are truly some inspiring statistics. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Nicky Espinosa. We are so excited to have her with us here today. Nicky came highly recommended by one of our Women United members, and we're excited to hear the messages that she will share with us today. Nicky is a fiery former executive who burned down her traditional career ladder after life threw her one too many curveballs. She left a successful 2-decade career as an executive leader to chase her dreams of helping others change their lives. She's author of No Apology Needed: The Career Transforming Power of Authenticity for Women Leaders. Her book was #1 release on Amazon in 2021. So without further delay, I will turn it over to you, Nicky. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much. And I'm really honored that I got to sit here and listen to the impact. That is amazing. I really like to speak for groups that are making a big difference. So keep going, guys. So just a little bit, that you got the background there from Sandy, but I have to tell you, boy, if you would have met me just a few years ago, you would have met a very different person. I was an executive for a long time, and the last about 14 years of my career, I was an executive in healthcare. I worked for Mayo Clinic, a wonderful organization. But I was very successful on the outside, right? Like I had the good job and I had the house and the kids and the whole thing. And the reality was I was really not very happy. And I felt super guilty about that because why wasn't I happy? I should be happy. I should be fulfilled. There were people that would love to have the life that I had. And the truth was I was really misaligned and I was burned out and I hadn't really fed my soul in a long time. And then life kind of threw a few curveballs, like Sandy mentioned in my introduction. I kind of refer to it as the train wreck that I could not walk away from. But really what happened is in a pretty short period of time, in about 2 years, my family and I just experienced a lot of loss. So it started with my husband, who his very best friend passed away very unexpectedly, had a heart attack at 43 and just died in his home one night. And my husband and I, we'd been working separate. He worked nights and I worked days for many, many years. So we were already kind of like on these different wavelengths. And I feel like I sort of lost him to grief for the next few years. But that happened. And then literally like 3 weeks after the funeral, I got a call from a nurse in the emergency room department where my daughter had admitted herself. She was afraid that she might hurt herself. She was almost 16. So this was the beginning of it was the first major depressive episode that she experienced. She's been hospitalized twice. She's in her, she's 26 now almost this year. So it's been a while, but that happened and I didn't know what depression was. Turned out I was probably depressed too, but I didn't know what that was at the time. So that happened. And quite frankly, I was struggling to manage my own job and pressures of life and everything. And so I started enjoying a little bit too much, my glass of wine every night. And that was becoming a numbing habit that I had. And so then I decided, well, I'm going to switch jobs. I did have the pleasure of working for a great organization that allowed a lot of upward momentum, but literally in 14 years, I was promoted almost every 3 years. And that sounds great, but the problem underneath all of that was, it was because I was searching for something. I was constantly kind of searching. So I did it again. I said, I'm going to take one more job. I'm going to take this other job and work for this other person. And unfortunately, I did my homework, but this person wasn't a very nice person. And about 9 months went by, and he ended up being asked to leave after harassing and traumatizing several women on his staff. And I kind of wanted to just chalk it up as life experience, but I was pretty traumatized by it. I was having a lot of like personal feelings about it. And then one day I got a text from my son, and he was almost 18 at the time. He was still living at home with us. And I was at work one morning and I got a text that said, I need help. And of course I'm like, what does that mean? Right. And turns out he had overdosed on sleeping medications the night before, and he was just waking up and he was scared and he needed help. Well, thank God he woke up. But it was almost as if like the air sucked out of the room and time just stopped when I was having this conversation with him. And then if you've ever had this experience, you'll relate to that, but any kind of crisis, right? Where everything kind of stops and then everything speeds up really fast. And all of a sudden you got all these things that we have to address. So fast forward to later that evening in the hospital with him. And I remember that the physicians, and we were at Mayo Clinic, I mean, world-renowned hospital. And I remember the physician coming in, and because anytime there's any kind of poison into your system, right, they're checking your liver and your kidneys and all of these things. And he wanted to reassure me that Chris was going to be okay, that none of the medications that he took were going to have any long-term effects on his organs, which on the surface, yeah, that's great. But he said to me, everything's going to be fine. He's going to be fine. And I don't know what it is about that moment, because I remember my like crazy warrior, lioness mother in me going, what do you mean it's going to be fine? It's not going to be fine. This is a problem. This is something I didn't feel equipped to deal with. And so I sat there in that hospital room late into the evening. I spent that first night there with him. And if I could just take you there for a minute, I was sitting on this really uncomfortable folding chair in the corner, if anybody's ever seen those in the ED department. And he was sleeping like he hadn't slept in months. He just looked so peaceful. And I remember thinking he probably hasn't really slept in a while. Like he's obviously been struggling. And the nurses were like chattering away at the nurses' station down the hall, and I could hear them. And, you can kind of, the room is dimly lit and there's kind of this like, hospital smell about it. And I just felt so overwhelmed with life right in that moment. And that's the moment where I really decided for myself that I had been going through the motions and it was affecting my life and my family. And I knew I needed to make some different choices. Fundamentally, I wanted to be happier. And I kind of grew up in the Midwest, and I grew up in a generation, maybe some of you can relate to this, where we were told, work hard and you'll be successful and push through it. And, my dad was an old farmer guy, right? He was like, suck it up, no whining, you're going to do this. And that's kind of how I had approached my career. And so I had driven myself into this place of burnout that there was nothing left for when life threw me some curveballs. And the truth is, I think that life does that to us. I think that our universe, God, whatever you believe in, I believe that if you're not where you're supposed to be, if you're not going on the path that you're supposed to, if you're not filling your cup and really enjoying life, there's going to be things that happen that come into your experience that remind you that you need to look at something differently, or you might need a different perspective. And, burnout in and of itself was the core of my problem, right? But if I wasn't burned out, I don't know, maybe I would have been able to handle some of these things differently. But at the end of the day, I don't feel a lot of guilt or regret for it. I'm trying to move forward. And, burnout has been one of those things that is prevalent right now, particularly. I think, between the pandemic and just all of the changes that people are seeing across our globe, is that we are seeing burnout statistics through the roof. I recently read something that said 70 or 90% of workers have experienced burnout, or say they've experienced burnout in the last year. And like 70% of CEOs are considering leaving for different work environments. That's like ridiculous. That's a lot of people. And so, if you're feeling burned out, you're not alone, but you don't have to stay there. And I wanted to create more balance in my life. And at the time, quite frankly, I did not want to leave my job. And I didn't leave my job for almost 3 more years after that, until I finally figured out what my passion was and bet on myself. And I'll tell you a little bit about that today too. But when I discovered that I really want to make some changes, I knew I had to do something different that was beyond, this wasn't an issue with time management and how to delegate things. And this is deeper, okay? It was really about where do I get excited and inspired, and where do I get energy? And so I embarked on this journey to really, for me to discover me again. And I want to share with you today some of the things that I've done that I still continue to do every day that I think will be really helpful, whether you feel like you're burned out or not, because the truth is we all have busy lives. And burnout is something just in general that we want to kind of watch for. Burnout really is where you're disengaged, you're uninspired, you're exhausted. That can happen in a lot of different seasons of our lives. Whether it is because of your job, or if it's because you're caring for elder parents, or because you have, 3 kids under 5, whatever it is in your life, be aware of how you treat yourself and have some courage to bet on yourself. So let's talk about this a little bit. The first thing I want to talk about, and you can just leave it on this slide, Lauren, I'll tell you when to move it. But the first thing I want to talk about is something that I do absolutely every day. And at first, I used to scoff at this. And so I'm going to tell you, like, from my total masculine energy, C-suite kind of jobs, I did not want to quiet down. I didn't want to slow down. I didn't want to meditate. I was like, no, I don't need to do any of those things. I don't have time for that. That's what I kept telling myself. And the truth is, what you're really doing when you don't make time to connect with yourself, okay? Connecting with yourself, connecting with your soul. For me, it's a little bit of a spiritual practice, but it is connecting to just what's my intuition telling me today. If you're not making time to do that, you're actively blocking some of those signals, that the knowledge and the wisdom that you have within you. And the reason why I was actively blocking it kind of way back when was because I didn't really want to address what I was going to learn, right? I knew I was going to have to make some changes, and I wasn't quite ready to do that. So I was ignoring that for a long time. When I first started to meditate, tell me if you guys can relate to this. I remember some of the first few times I meditated, and I went into the kind of and I went into that, and I immediately had like thoughts, right? Like, did I leave this clothes in the washer? And did I answer that email? And then I would start beating myself up about something like, I should have said this instead of that to this person at work, right? I'm replaying conversations. That is pretty normal. And yes, somebody just said my first meditation was awful. Yes, because you've been so disconnected, when you start to connect in, there's a lot of noise, right? There's a lot of like, oh my God, she's actually paying attention. Let's start telling her, that's kind of what I felt like. So don't give up on meditation. I will say though, meditation in and of itself, like the actual act of meditation, guided meditations, and being able to really sit in that quiet space is beautiful, but it is not for everybody. And so I have a lot of people that'll reach out to me who say, I've tried, I can't do that. And I say, try something kind of interim and think about I kind of say shut off the brain a little bit, but you know how when like this happens for me when I'm gardening, like I can get in my zone and listen to some music and garden and just all of a sudden the ideas start coming, creativity starts. That's what we're after. We want to get to this space of being able to kind of turn off the noise. So for some people that is going for a walk in nature, some people it is more aggressive or sort of exercise. Some people I also do a lot of like, I'll just go for a drive. Like I need to go for a drive. I tell my husband, I need to go talk to myself and I'll go for a drive when I need to think. I also wanted to share a little bit about this is that one of the very last executives that I was advising in corporate, so he was like basically a CEO of like an arm of Mayo Clinic, like a for-profit arm. And one of the things that we were talking about in the last months before I even left there was time to think, like creating time for his executive team to think. He was talking about time to strategize, time to really take a clear look at what's happening around you instead of just addressing or responding to all of the stimuli coming at us. So get quiet, connect with yourself every single day. And you can turn the slide there, Lauren. Because what happens is that quiet is going to bring clarity. And that clarity is where we get the confidence to take some of the actions. We're going to talk about inspired action in a little bit, but the confidence to be able to take the actions and feel good about them, right? Feel good that we know we're on the right path. Quiet brings clarity and clarity brings confidence. So once you start getting quiet and you start listening to yourself a little bit more, you're going to notice some things that maybe you're not taking such great care of within yourself. So that's the second thing is that I just call this honor myself every day. Think about this as like filling your cup every single day. A side story, I got to tell you, the first time I saw a poster that said, fill your cup before you give to other people. It was when my daughter went into the hospital the first time and we went to this family therapy session and it was on the wall. And I remember saying, I don't understand what that means. And now looking back, I feel like, oh, I was so shut off to what I needed. But that was the first time I've seen that. And now it is such an important part of my life. I firmly believe, I call it my happy first motto, but I firmly believe that you have to focus on your fulfillment first. And I know as a mom and as a giver and as a nurturer, sometimes that feels off. But let me tell you, most of the time, when we aren't actually filling or serving from our overflow, right? When we are actually allowing other people to take more from us than we have to give, we're not doing it because it's the right, like the right thing to do for us. We're doing it because we think we have to, or there's some kind of obligation, or we've gotten ourselves in such a pattern that we take care of everybody else. We're really disconnected with our own needs when we do that. And fundamentally, that is a big piece of getting quiet too, is how do you connect to what you desire most? And then being able to take action from that standpoint. So when I quit drinking, which was part of my journey, it's been 4 years this month, actually, guys. When I quit drinking, I did something, thank you. I did something that I called my extreme self-care. And it was very much like, I had been using alcohol to soothe, right? I've been self-soothing with alcohol. And so when I take that away, I don't have that soothe, thank you. And when you don't have that soothe, and then you start to feel all the feelings. Alcohol was numbing. And so I had a lot of emotion in those first few months as I was really working through my sobriety. And so if I needed a bath, I took a bath. I don't care if it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Sometimes it was like, I need a break. I'm taking a break. I would eat good food. I went and saw movies I wanted to see, anything that would just kind of keep me feeling good. And one of my therapists, or a therapist that I had at the time, she said, she asked me to describe one day, what's the physical emotion or the physical feelings that you get when I took that first sip of wine every night? And it was such I could talk about the warm in my belly and the warm in on my shoulders. And that's what I was after. And so I created that by buying this heating pad. And I had this heating pad that I threw on my shoulders every night. So I would come home from work and I'd sit on the couch where I would normally have a glass of wine. That heating pad went on my shoulders with some tea. And by golly, if that didn't help a lot, so much. As a matter of fact, that first year when I took vacation, the heating pad came with me on vacation. It was that important to me, kind of like a security blanket. But what you'll discover is that you need to have this ability to take care of yourself, mind, body, and soul. So today, what that looks like for me is, how do I honor when I need rest? How do I ensure that I'm eating the right things, like not right things, but good things for me? And it's genuinely breaking this pattern of always thinking about other people first. And I know that sounds so selfish, but it's not, okay? It's really not. You can turn the slide, Lauren. What we're really talking about is that when your cup overflows, your ability to serve others is limitless. And when your cup is half full and you're trying to serve from that half full cup, you're going to constantly be depleting. So your number one job is to fill your cup, to be at your best, to do things that make you feel whole and peaceful and just grounded. Because you know that when you're in that space, everything is easier. Everything is easier, and you have so much more to give. And I think what's really important here is to recognize that if you don't fill the cup first, right, and you try to fill or serve people from your cup and your cup is depleted, I kind of visualize this as, like when you're trying to fill, I don't know, I don't have a swimming pool, but I have a hot tub. You're trying to fill a swimming pool, like if you put the hose at the bottom of the swimming pool, it's going to take forever to fill the swimming pool up. That's what it kind of feels like for my soul cup, right? It took forever to fill it up. I am not going to give it away. I am not going to give it away. And what I've discovered is that this is the only way for me to live anymore, because by serving people from that overflow, I'm feeling good about it. I'm able to do more and more and more. And I really feel really good about the things I've been able to accomplish in my life in this state. So I know that it's maybe a little bit overdone, but I really want to just impress upon you that it is really true that you do need to serve from your overflow and not try to take from your cup. Part of when you start to really serve yourself in this way, to serve others in this way, part of listening to yourself too is you have to follow your intuition, right? I follow my intuition explicitly, even when I think she's crazy, even when it doesn't make sense. Okay. Now, this is admittedly more prevalent in my life as an entrepreneur, but I absolutely did this as a leader in executive roles as well. I would have just called it I go with my gut. I go with my gut a lot. And I would know if something was off, right? You knew if something was off. And so I'd go in and I have to kind of consider what that looks like. When I look back at my life, I think about all kinds of things happened in my life. All kinds of signals were there long before I hit my rock bottom. And I think this is true for a lot of us when we've finally made kind of a big change in our lives. I have a good friend who recently got divorced, and we were talking about it in relationship to her, in her relationship, is that you can look back and go, oh, well, now I see this and I see this and I see this. And you felt it at the time, but you didn't want to acknowledge it, right? I felt like that with my burnout story and in my career a lot. And I had just gotten so used to kind of serving for everybody else and always watching for what wasn't going right. For a while, I kind of thought maybe it was because I was in healthcare. It's obviously we don't want to harm any patients. So all of the systems were supporting looking for problems and looking for, that's fine, Stephanie, thank you. But looking for problems and looking for risks and trying to get in front of them. I did it as a mom. I did it early in my career when I was a project manager. I got really accustomed to looking for problems because I felt like it was my job to fix them or to head them off before they became a bigger issue. And to be honest, that was my job part of the time, right? Is to watch for problems and make sure that I saw them. What I discovered when I really started to tap into my intuition is that I was actually almost inadvertently attracting all of this negative into my life because I was looking for it so closely, right? And you've probably heard some people talk about this, that it's part of the law of attraction. It's part of the reticular activating system in our brains. But when you tell your brain, I'm going to look for something, it's going to look for that, and you're going to bring more of that into your life. I didn't know how to look for the good things because, quite frankly, that felt delusional. That didn't feel real or like honest to me. When I really started to listen to my intuition, I started to really uncover some things about my past. And I think this is really important for all of us to understand, that we all are a collection of our experiences. And through therapy or through really understanding some inner child work or even some shadow work, to understand, like, why do you behave in the way you behave, or why do you think the way you think, or why do you have the beliefs that you have, these sometimes very limiting beliefs, right? When I started to tap into that, I uncovered a mother lode about this pattern I had of watching for the negative. You see, I grew up in an alcoholic household. So my parents, they're both recovering alcoholics now, but between the time I was born until I was about 10, they were active alcoholics. And I'm the oldest of 4 children. So my mother talks about the only time she didn't drink is when she was pregnant. Otherwise, she drank every single day. And what happened is, being the oldest of 4 children and in that state, I was kind of the motherly one. I was taking care of everybody else. And I got really, really in tune to emotions in the house because it was chaotic. It was unpredictable. If dad came home and he was upset about something, like, that was stuff I needed to watch for. When I started to uncover this stuff and go, oh my gosh, that's why I do that. That's why it feels this way. And my mother and I have had some really good conversations about this. Interestingly enough, she doesn't remember a lot of bad things that happened in that time of her life, right? Because she's got things to deal with too. But when I uncovered that and went, whoa, this is so much deeper than just, oh, I don't like my job, right? This is, how do I really kind of course correct this sense of always looking for negative? So I had to tap into my intuition and reprogram her, right? Because she was looking for negative all the time, and start to look for positive. And this isn't always easy and it isn't always comfortable, right? But I think it's absolutely necessary. And Lauren, you can turn the slide, because what happens is your intuition is like your internal compass. Okay, think about it as your guidance system. And if you ignore her or ignore it, she's going to get louder, maybe a little bit more uncomfortable, right? And most of us don't want to pay attention to some of the negative things we hear from our intuition, right? Or if our intuition tells us that, this isn't the right relationship, or I'm not living in the right town, or I should apply for this job, but I'm scared. Your intuition is pushing you for a reason. It's because that is the path you're supposed to go down. So address why you're afraid of it. Address why it's making you uncomfortable. And that's where some of this work comes in, where you start to uncover things about yourself. Uncovering that little tidbit, that was a big tidbit, but uncovering that about myself and my life changed a lot. changed a lot. It was a really good lesson, and I still have a habit of sometimes looking for the negative, and I have to correct myself and remember that. So I want to also talk about energy and what gives you energy. I don't think enough people chase what gives you energy. And I think the reason we don't is because we're afraid. And because we think that we're supposed to be a certain way, or because this path that was laid out for us that someone else told us is the perfect path, like if we go off that or we do something different that gives us energy, that we're doing something wrong. And I think women particularly, we do a lot of asking for permission when we should just do it, to do the things that we really want to do. When I quit my job, I knew that my job was depleting my energies, but I didn't just quit right away. Like I mentioned, when I started this path of recovery, it was almost 3 years before I actually quit my job. I did other things in that time frame, right, to create more satisfaction from the work, and I ended up moving to a different boss, and all kinds of things happened. But in doing this energy work, really understanding what gives you energy, I was able to see what I like doing and what I don't like doing, and make a path. Now, my path happened to be into entrepreneurship, but I've worked with a lot of people that their path is to a different job, or their path is to, finally have that conversation with their boss and get the promotion they deserve, whatever it is for them. But chasing what gives you energy is, I just don't minimize that. Don't minimize how important that is to you. One of the things that I did in my first year of business, because I will admit, as an entrepreneur, understanding your energy is critical to your success. And quite frankly, in my 9-to-5, it wasn't as important to me getting, like, I still got a paycheck every week, right? Or every other week. As an entrepreneur, if I don't have the energy to do something, I'm not getting paid, right? So you have to really pay attention to your energy, even more so as an entrepreneur. And I had somebody advise me in my first year of business to track my energy. And I thought, well, what is this, kindergarten? Like, I don't want to do that. But I reluctantly did. I'm so glad I did. I'm so glad I did. I now will do this probably once a year. I'll be like, oh, I got to check my energy again. And here's a fun way to do this, okay? First of all, the reason you would do this is because your energy ebbs and flows, and it has a rhythm. And if you're not paying attention, which most of us are too busy, we don't notice it. If you're not paying attention, you miss it, and you miss an opportunity to, one, really capitalize when your energy is up, and also give yourself some grace when it's not. So what I did is I checked my energy for 6 weeks. I don't do it that long now. Like if I do it now, it might be for a few weeks. But I would track my energy. I would track my energy with a word or like a short phrase, like not just saying, oh, my energy is good today or it's bad today, but what is it? What do I feel today? How do I really feel today? With a word or a short phrase. I would give it a color because I'm colorful that day, but that was interesting to give it a color. And then rank it, like 1 to 10, 10 being like, I'm on cloud 9, and 1 is like, I don't want to get out of bed. Right. And what I discovered is that I have a very clear energy pattern that's about every 3 weeks, every 3 and 6 weeks, about every 3 weeks, I get a lower energy, right? I'm just not feeling it so much. So now what I do is I know that there are projects in my business that I actually will hold for my low energy times. So when I'm in high energy, I'm doing content, I'm doing other things that require my high energy. And when I'm in low energy, I have projects. So I feel really productive because I understand my energy levels. I'm not trying to force, creativity on a low energy day. Not at all. And the other thing that happened, and maybe I shouldn't tell you this, but I already said 6 weeks. About every 6 weeks, I get some serious imposter syndrome. It used to be really bad. Like I might spend a week just going, oh, what am I doing? Where am I going? Right. And now I recognize that. So when it comes, I just know like, oh, yeah, that's about that time for that. Let's do my affirmations. Let's do the work that motivates me. So it is really important to chase what gives you energy. And in order to do that, you have to know what gives you energy. So I might recommend tracking it for a little while and just see what you discover about yourself. And then the last thing that I do, but might be the most important, is that learning to take action from a place of inspiration rather than obligation. I didn't know what that was like anymore when I really started to try to climb out of burnout. I did everything because it was on my schedule, it was on my list, because somebody asked me to, because I told them that I would, even though I should have said no. You know, all of these things where I felt like I had to. The other thing I would say all the time is I have to take care of this thing, because if I don't do it, nobody else is going to do it. Right? That might be at work, might be at home, dinner, the whole thing, right? But when you learn that your energy ebbs and flows like this, right? And when you're in a good energy state and you're inspired and you're motivated, doesn't everything seem a lot easier? It moves faster. Quite frankly, you don't waste time like reworking decisions and things like that. You're clear about where you're going. And giving yourself grace to understand that you're not always going to be up, right? We're not always going to be there. So when we're there, when we have that inspiration, and you can create some motivation too, we can talk about that another time, but when you're in that good energy and that inspired space, take action there. So stop forcing something that doesn't feel like it's working, right? When it feels like you're pushing a boulder up a mountain and nothing's happening and you're just getting exhausted, there's a problem with that. So take a look at that and understand that it's not anything you're doing wrong. It's just something's not aligned. So if you think about taking inspired action and you can turn the slide there, Lauren. Taking inspired action is kind of like, it's powerful, right? So, oh, sorry, that was that was chasing energy. We missed a slide. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Let me just bounce back 1 second on that. You know how you see something and you can't unsee it? No, that's okay. Go back down. If you ever if you see something that you even don't want to see, but you can't unsee it, right? Like you see the train wreck, whatever, you can't unsee it. Think about the discoveries about yourself that way too. All right. So it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Okay, Lauren, you can switch the slide again. And then when you think about inspired action is powerful. It is powerful. It will move mountains. But most of the time we're taking action out of obligation and we're trying to force something. And that means all we're really doing is moving pebbles around the mountain. You're not moving the mountain, you're just moving the pebbles around. And that feels really busy. That feels really like I can check that off my list, but I didn't move the mountain. That's about creating impact in people's lives and in the lives of your team and in your life and the people that you care about. So taking inspired action has been one of the challenges for me because of my old patterns in 9-to-5 world. There was a lot of obligation. So sometimes how this plays out in my life now is that I might be feeling like I do have a to-do list, right? And I have things that I want to accomplish. And I might spend an entire day just checking stuff off that list and getting these things done. And then I get to the end of the day and go, but I didn't actually do something that would create revenue in my business today. I did a lot of busy work. So pay attention to that in your life, all right? Now, as I'm closing up today, you can switch, Lauren, to the next slide. I'd like to just say, living my life by this motto, happy first, it's not always easy, right? It's not like I'm always happy. It's genuinely wanting to be happy every day and choosing to take actions that like meditation, like journaling, like checking in with myself. And I have my 5 happy habits listed in my office. I check in with myself every day and say, did I do this today? And some days the answer is no, I didn't. But more days than not, I do, because your fulfillment is a choice. And I know that it doesn't always feel like that when we have all of these responsibilities on top of us. But to remember that you are always, always, always powerful. You are always in control of your choices. You get to choose. So I will say I will never go back to what I would just call living life, like going through the motions on that hamster wheel. I can't imagine ever doing that, because this is my life now. And it's not just about a job. It's really about enjoying your journey and understanding who you are and how you get to contribute to this world. So I get to create my own reality every single day. And some days I feel delusional and I do it anyways. And other days I feel very validated and I do it anyways. And I just keep doing it because I'm connected to myself, because I'm taking care of myself. I'm filling my cup first. I know what gives me energy. I take inspired action, and I love myself every day. And that's what I hope for all of you too. So that's my end. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nikki. That was incredible. It really was an opportunity to hear your perspective. We've got a couple of minutes, and if anybody has a question or a reaction, we'd love to just open it up for any questions or reactions to what Nikki shared with us today. Well, if anyone's thinking, you can put it in the chat. You can put it in the chat if you want to. Looks like there's a new message here. So relatable, Beth. Absolutely. For me, that whole thing, it's a personal. I'm exploring this whole masculine energy versus feminine energy. You kind of glossed over it, Nikki, a little bit, but they're very different energetic. And tell us a little bit about how did you foster more of that feminine or softer energy when you've been trained so much to be the executive? What allowed you to bring that forward a little bit more?
Creating a safe space for yourself. I think the reason that I stayed in masculine a lot, and that's like a whole other training that we'd love to do something like that too, but because I didn't even realize how much I was in my masculine until I left my corporate job. And I actually had somebody say to me, wow, you're really in your masculine energy. and I went, wait, what? So she became something of a mentor to me to really help me tap into my feminine side. I will tell you, I feel like I'm working on it all the time, but creating safety in your soul. So here's what I mean by that. Like, the reason I was so masculine, or the reason I felt like I had to be so masculine, is because I didn't feel safe to be feminine. I thought feminine was weak. I felt like I couldn't cry, I couldn't show emotions, because that's the way I was taught, even growing up in corporate. And, but it affected my marriage. Like, my marriage is way closer now than it's ever been. But because I've been able to kind of lean into my feminine side a little bit more, allows me to appreciate him in a different way and appreciate all people really in a different way. But I had to create that safety for myself to allow myself to feel softer, is a good word for that. Once you do start to really step into that feminine side, you discover how freaking powerful we are. The truth is, the feminine energy is incredibly powerful. And I still feel like it's something I don't completely understand for myself, because I feel the power of it all the time. And I go, wow, where was this when I was dealing, with Paul or whatever, where was this energy for me? But yes, creating that sense of security for yourself. I
think that's really a key observation, that the feminine energy does come up from a place of power as opposed to powerless, which was maybe a misconception about us owning our authentic feminine selves. So thank you for sharing that. Anyone else have a question or a reaction? We had a couple in the chat. Jan, thanks for your comment there as well. Anyone else?
This is Sandy. I just wanted to say I really enjoyed your energy and everything you had to share. It resonates. I too have not successfully been able to meditate, but no, deep down I probably should. So I have some hobbies that help me to focus. But yeah, good for you. And
You know, another good thing I mean, have you tried journaling?
I'm terrible at that too.
Are you terrible at that? Yeah. Journaling was one of the things that worked for me because I had to get it out, getting it out of your head a little bit.
Yeah, I've journaled, since it's mental health awareness, right? I've had a lot of therapy over the years. I too grew up in an alcoholic household, which totally set the path for my future that took me until 50 before I figured it out and harnessed my energy in better ways. So I did a lot of journaling in the day. I just have not adopted it as a current path. And I think, I don't know if this resonates with anyone else, I hate writing. Like my son journals on his laptop. So I'm like, maybe I should try that, but I type all day. So there's always a reason behind and it's not a reason, it's an excuse. But I appreciate
Nikki, I really
audio
appreciated,
recorder, anything. You got Sandy.
yeah, Nikki, I really appreciated, and Sandy, I can relate as well, but I really appreciated, Nikki, your thought of just finding other types of activities, whether it be gardening or like I find sometimes just going for a walk, right? Just a 20-minute walk, a 10-minute walk, just total quiet and, you know, being maybe outdoors and listening to the birds chirp or something like that, right? But it's just that quieting of the mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I want to thank everybody for their time and attention. MJ, I know you had a question. So Nikki, if you wouldn't mind sharing your email address, maybe MJ, you can connect with Nikki offline and she can share a little bit more about how that transition worked for her. And having gone through a similar thing, Julie, who also was a member, went through a similar thing, going from a corporate to a entrepreneurial. So feel free to reach out to any of us who are also in the Women United community. MJ, if you have questions about how did you quit your corporate job and start your own company, because it is a courageous and powerful moment. And there's also a couple Women United members. I know Julie and myself, but I'm sure there are others who have made that transition as well. So with that, Nikki, again, just want to thank you for all of your time, your vulnerability, that real clarity about just some of these really concrete steps that we can take individually to address burnout that we might be feeling in our own lives. So again, thank you so much for that. Melissa O'Hara, also with Sandy here on the LeadHERS series. I'll just wrap it up with a couple of things that we've got previews of coming attractions. So the next thing we have on the docket is just May 11th. So coming up tomorrow is the Shop for Pop. It's at the Place to Be, Franklin Avenue in Hartford. Encourage you to go. Some of you might have seen an email. We still need more purses. So if you can be there at that event, it would be fantastic. You can actually buy something and donate it. And proceeds go towards the Power of the Purse event as well. So for those of you who can make it there, we'd love to see you. Speaking of Pop or Power of the Purse, we've got that coming up on June 8th. So if you haven't already gotten your tickets, encourage you to get it. It's an absolutely fantastic event. It's sponsored by Key Bank and it has an amazing silent auction. So I've got purses myself from prior years. And I have an item that I've donated this year. So hopefully we can see some of you there. It does help support financial security. As Lauren had talked about with those great statistics at the beginning, this is actually how we fund the support, over $2 million since we've started Power of the Purse and our other signature event. So really, we'd love to. Our keynote speaker is Jessica Bruder and her book, Nomadland, and really an opportunity to hear a powerful speaker. So we'd love to see you there. If you have any questions about it, reach out to Lauren or anyone from Women United. We'd love to have you at that event. And if you haven't gotten your ticket, you can still get a 10% off at checkout, just and add member, and that would be saving you 10%. So that's a great opportunity as well. I'll do one little plug that isn't in the slides. For one of the things we hear a lot is how do we do more volunteer work? So we are working on a signature volunteer opportunity in partner with the Financial Opportunity Center. It's actually the group that we support through a lot of this funding, through the VITA tax program that we talked about. And we're actually going to be doing a co-sponsored event with the Financial Opportunity Center on September 28th. So mark your calendar. You'll hear more about it, but just wanted to let you know you're kind of the first public audience that we're excited to be bringing that partnership volunteer opportunity forward for you. So that's what we've got for you in terms of upcoming events. just again, thank you for all of your time, your attention, your support. Hopefully you find benefit in programs like this. If there's other topics that you would like us to bring to you, other ideas for LeadHERS, we'd love to have you provide that to Sandy or to myself or to Lauren. Our next event is coming up on November 15th. And again, you'll hear more about that. So Nikki, again, thank you. Sandy and Lauren, always a pleasure working with you and wishing everyone the absolute best. Have a great day.